today. Today we're here for Teacher Talk, and I really felt like this was an opportunity to us to really at National Geographic Learning just to build this community of learners through teachers, through administrators, and through my colleagues here with me at National Geographic Learning. So thank you for joining me. We want this to be interactive. This session is really designed to provide KG teachers, and if some of you are grade 1 or 2, and maybe even higher, to really give you some strategies that you can use in your classroom for practical, hands-on, and engaging strategies to promote positive outcomes for students. So I'm so excited to see so many, well, virtually see so many familiar faces from some of my previous webinars in March when we did the Embracing Change series, or I've been to many of your schools via Zoom platform, and I've met with you and engaged with you. So thank you and welcome back. And for those of you that are new to National Geographic Learning, just to give you a little bit about us and who we are a leading educational publishing company for schools, for higher education, as well as English language teaching. And we truly believe, this is really our motto and our ethos, that we believe in engaging and motivating learners through our materials, through our resources that we share. We want learning to be exciting, to be inspiring, and to be transformational. And I love to use the word transformational because if you think about what educators have experienced over the last 14 months, this has been a transformation in how we deliver instruction to students. And so we believe in truly bringing the world to the classroom. You'll see some of that today, what we're going to present, and bringing the classroom to life and those hands-on and engaging strategies and resources for students to make progress in the academic setting. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, I am Davita Austin, and I have been with National Geographic Learning for about, now 4 months now, since the start of the year. But I am an educator. I've been in education for 25 years. I have been a teacher. I've been a teacher for young students as well as middle and high school students. I've also been a building administrator, both in the United States and here in the UAE as well. I've worked in curriculum, I've helped to develop curriculum, and my specialty is also special education. So I'm so excited to be with National Geographic Learning because a lot of the research and the trends in education that I truly believe make an impact with students, it was one of the true primary driving forces for the change that you see in our resources. And today I'm so excited. I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Miss Amanda Gordon, and Amanda is an ELT and school consultant for the GCC region, and she works primarily with the UAE and Oman. And she's also a former teacher. So we're educators. We believe in educating students, and we believe in the power of the resources that we work with through National Geographic Learning. And she has been a teacher in the United States as well as the UAE. She has a small bundle of joy, her first child, so it's so exciting. And Amanda, just thank you for joining me for today's session.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited, and I'm so pleased to see everybody come out, and we're really excited.
Yeah, really exciting. And the reason why Amanda and I decided to call this Teacher Talk, because we don't want you just to hear from us. We want you to hear from other teachers in the region. We want you to hear from people who have experienced some of the change that you've had to experience over the course of the last 14 months. So we're also joined by Ms. Camille McPherson, and she's a teacher and an educational consultant in Dubai, and she works in American schools. Hi, Camille. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. I think you're still, there you go.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super, super excited to be here. National Geographic is amazing. So I'm really, really thankful for the opportunity to speak and hopefully share some teaching tips with everyone.
Thank you, Camille. We also, some of our contributors for today's session, Miss Marisa is a contributor. She was unable to join us today as she had an family emergency, but she has shared some of her tips and tricks. I had the pleasure of working with Miss Marisa last year as a building administrator, so she has shared. And then one of our key customers that we just enjoy working with through the Agnot schools, Madinat Zayed, they are joining us today, and they have shared some resources as well that we're going to share with you and what their KG department. So Ms. Angelique, their KG director, has sent us just some wonderful tips that they're using at that in their campus. So thank you so much, Ms. Angelique, for sending us some great tips that we would like to share, working with KG, grade 1, and even grade 2 and through elementary. These are what I call best strategies for all. So our agenda for today, we really looked at, when we think about early learners, what are some important strategies for those developmental skills that we need to continue to develop, even as we're in blended learning environments. So we wanted you to think of a few areas. We want to think about, how does your play and learn look on an online setting? How are you continuing that for early learners? And how do you continue to connect learning through hands-on activities and allow students to make and to create? Which brings me into 21st century skills. So in March, I did a series on 21st century skills, developing young learners, their critical thinking skills, their communication, continuing to have them to collaborate in an online environment and to develop their innovation curiosity as well. And then this is the one that most teachers tell me they're struggling with. How do you continue to engage young learners, okay? How do you engage them in an online environment? And then reading, because as we're working with students, I know most of you work with students that are English as second language learners. How do you continue to use those best practices for teaching students to read and to continue to motivate our young leaders to want to pick up a book and to read, okay? So with that, I want everyone to look at this picture. I love this picture. I remember 14 months ago, I was in a school building. I was a vice principal, and I remember closing our doors and we all went to a distance learning environment. So I want you to look at this, to take a moment to visualize this picture and think about your experiences over the last 14 months. Think about the learning experiences for you, for your students, and how does this picture resonate with you? And I just want us to spend some time in the chat, and you can just put a word that comes to mind, a phrase. I've been there. I was that teacher or administrator who felt like I was hanging off a cliff. Or if you look at this picture, hanging off the side of my screen. I still feel like that some days. So please just type in the chat what resonates with you when you look at this picture. And we'll just take about two minutes. Let's see what people are saying. Overwhelmed. Thank you, Amanda. Overwhelmed. Yes. And Geraldine says challenging. Yeah, that word definitely resonates. Thank you. Let's see. Excited. I'm glad someone said excited. Excited for new possibilities, because this is truly an exciting change, because I believe teachers will develop toolboxes that they will be able to use in any setting when we're through this. Adventurous. Thank you, Sue Ann. Teacher life in one picture. I love that. Every day is a school day. I love these. Challenging again. Blessed with technology. Yes. Wow. Creative thinking. Risk-taking. Thank you, Paula. Okay, these are great. Transition. Yeah. New opportunities. I love that. Opportunities. Thank you. And Amanda, what are some of the things that you've heard teachers say as you've been, working with them via Zoom and meeting with them virtually? Do these words seem kind of to hold true?
They all resonate, absolutely. Everybody was at first a little panicked and overwhelmed, especially when we're thinking about young learners and digital learning. But over the course of the year, I saw all of these words turning a lot more positive, and they were excited, and everybody had adapted quite quickly, and they were ready to take on new challenges, and students and teachers and parents alike had really overcome and found a new love of learning, of digital distance learning.
Yeah, I love these. I'm continuing to read some of the comments, dreaming of the days. I love it. And Ms. Camille, you have been in the classroom for over a year, and you are a grade 1 teacher. Talk to us about how this resonates with you as a classroom teacher.
So I told you when I saw this picture, I was like, where did you get that photo of me in the green dress hanging on by a thread? But a lot of people, I think, have the same reflection that, you know, it doesn't really matter how long you have been teaching for. Everyone kind of felt like a brand new teacher this year. We really had to learn everything from scratch. And I think that if you were a reflective teacher, you knew that going forward, technology was going to have to be a huge part of classroom instruction going forward. So I think, as Amanda said, you know, a lot of the reflection and feelings towards this year turned positive, or are turning positive now as things start to get back to normal, but also now that we kind of know what tools we need to move forward with.
Yeah, and I like what both of you said, because it's about being okay with it. And, you know, I asked a teacher who's a fantastic teacher to join me, and she said, I'm not sure if I can because I don't know what I'm doing myself right now. And she's still so afraid. And I told her, just use what you already know. And so we're going to kind of bring this back to remembering what you already know as an early learning teacher, those best practices, and bringing it back to the basics, and then incorporating technology, as many of you have said. So I love this. Thank you. I'm actually just smiling at a lot of the comments, because being in the building during that time, I felt this. And then as I work and engage with teachers across the district, I hear some of these same comments. So these are great. So what we're going to do today, I've told you a little bit about myself. Amanda shared, I've shared information about Amanda and Camille. I want to know who you are, what brings you with us today, why are you here, what you're hoping to learn from this session. And we're going to do a little poll, but I'm going to use quizzes. And so how many of you have used quizzes? It's actually one of my favorite interactive tools. I love it for early learners because it's engaging. Some of you may have used Kahoot, which is similar, but we're going to use quizzes because there's so many different things you can do using the quiz platform. So I'm going to actually stop sharing for just a moment, and I am going to pull up a live dashboard so that you can join my quiz. And let me just say something about quizzes. A lot of people think you just use this for formative checks, but it's so cool. You can create vocabulary flashcards. So, you know, a lot of our resources, we explicitly teach vocabulary for English as second language learners. So here you can make those flashcards and continue to teach and have students to drill or work cooperatively with each other in small groups in their breakout sessions. So there's so many activities you can use with quizzes. But let me reshare my screen. If everyone can go to quizzes on their screen, and I'll just put Amanda, can you put the link in the chat for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you. And then you will just join using code 565601. And we'll just take a quick second to do a quick poll. And you can just see how interactive this is just by the screen that you see in front of you, and how students love to do quizzing. So we're just going to put the link in the chat. Amanda, thank you so much. Just put it there for me. And let's get started and start joining. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to join, and then I will start the quiz. And again, the code is 565601. And the link is right above, Geraldine.
So quizzes.com.
Yeah, just quizzes.com. Here, we'll put the link in again, but it's just quizzes.com. Oh, I think Amanda possibly, it just went to the panelists, not to the
Oh, apologies. Sorry, everybody.
No worries.
Sorry. So quizzes.com, all panelists and attendees. Sorry about that. There we go. Whoops.
Okay. So as everyone's joining again, you may use this for a quick formative check. You may use this to develop some of the activities. You can also put your lesson plans on quizzes. There's so many creative things that you can do with quizzes. So I encourage you to just spend some time. It is free. So it's a free resource that you can use to increase your technology in your online environment. Okay. And I'll wait just another 30 seconds before I hit start. Okay. Okay. So right now, I don't have any players that have joined.
It's showing 43 on my phone.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, 43 have joined. Okay, let me hit start. And here's a technology blues because on my end, it is not starting. So let me just continue. Okay. What I'm going to do is give it a minute. It's still loading on my end. So I am going to just go to the next screen as it's loading. And then as soon as it loads on my end, we will come back to the quiz because it hasn't loaded on my end. And so then I can engage and find out who you are and what you're hoping to learn as we go through this. So Amanda, while it's loading, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Sure, thanks, Davida. Gotta love on-the-spot technology. I think we've all experienced this. So do you want me to share the screen, Davida?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Let
going
me
to share
get
my
to that
screen
now.
so we can start. Yeah. There we go.
Thanks, Davida.
Welcome.
Okay, do you want to put it on the presenter mode? There we go. Okay, so SOS, when we did that little word association activity before, I think a lot of the words started off fearful, overwhelmed, a little bit frightened or anxious. And we could all say that it was new and it was scary. When you put the words distance learning and young learners in the same sentence, that's scary and overwhelming. So I thought about that. And then over the course of the year, like we said, and like we've heard from a lot of you, we turned this into a more positive spin, and we saw how we could overcome these challenges, how we could use this to improve our teaching, improve our students' learning. And so I thought, okay, how can we change this SOS into something more positive? So I thought, let's create an SOS model for teaching our young learners. So we've got our short, our organized, and our student-centered. So 3 principles that we can use to kind of generate our lessons, whether they be distance learning, in classrooms, or a blended approach. So this is our SOS model, and we'll be bringing you some activities that kind of align with this. So short. When we think about teaching our younger ones, we want to keep things short and sweet and kind of within their attention range. So a quick question for you guys, if you could just pop your guesses into the chat. What would you say the average attention span is of a 5-year-old? So the average attention, 3 to 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 15, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, maximum 10. Depends on their interests, depends on the activity. Absolutely. So the research shows that you would, the attention span would range anywhere between 2 to 5 times their age. So if we've got a 5-year-old, that's between 10 to 25 minutes. And I think we could say as a teacher, we're going to use the shorter end of that range because realistically, yeah, I think 10 minutes is about right. And that's what a lot of you had mentioned too. And you're working with them. So we need to keep these lessons short engaging, and aligned to our outcomes. Organized. Of course, this kind of sounds like a no-brainer, and I think teachers are probably some of the most organized people on this planet. But we need to be even more organized now when we have, I mean, all of the schools I speak to, they have different schedules. You might have an A and a B coming in. You might have 6 kids in your class and 10 online. You might have 0 in your class and they're all online. So you need to be even more organized than you were previously. So what does that mean? If we are using Zoom or Teams, running through our presentations, and of course there's going to be glitches. We have it happen every day, and we saw it today. So I think also we can be as organized as we want, but we also need to make sure we're easy on ourselves when things do not always go to plan. But ways to stay organized, making sure links work, the audio, the video, making sure you're on unmute. So that's one of the simplest things. Because if we only have 10 minutes working with our little kids and their attention spans, we need to make sure that every one of those minutes, every one of those seconds counts. Using tools like a classroom presentation tool, a USB, where everything is already there for you, the student book, the workbook, the audio, the video, the games and activities. It can kind of just streamline your lessons and make it a lot easier to teach. And then, of course, we want our lessons to be student-centered. But what does this look like in a blended learning environment? It's probably not as easy. I think we can probably get caught up in kind of talking to the screen and talking at our children. But we need to create these student-centered environments by communicating our clear expectations and using a variety of instructional and learning strategies, personalizing these experiences, and incorporating all of these learner styles. So giving lessons that appeal to the bodily kinesthetic student, the auditory, the visual learner, making sure we hit all of those styles and we're not just speaking at the screen.
Thank you for that, Amanda. I love that analogy that she came up with, SOS, and turn it into a positive spin. Short, organized, and student focused. And I'm just going to really pick up from there and just continue. When I talk to teachers and I meet with teachers online, there's a common misconception that, when we talk about blended learning or teaching online, that we have to change everything. 100% has to be changed as we move into online teaching. But I want to charge teachers with just thinking the key is to more adapt. So that's why I put this adaptation. Is to adapt what you already know are good practices. So from your face-to-face experiences, those practices you used to use, how do you adapt them into an online blended learning? And that's going to be kind of some of the things that I'll talk about today. And then remembering strategies that are key for KG teachers or early learner teachers, or really elementary teachers in general, having those clear opening and closing routines. What do they look like? Are they developmentally appropriate? Do you continue to have developmental play in your circle time or group time? Are you continuing with those strategies? Are you doing those hands-on approaches, or some of us like to call them Montessori approaches? Are you continuing those different activities, whether bringing them into a synchronous learning environment, so a live environment, and then having students to do developmental play in an asynchronous environment? So I don't want you to forget those true strategies. So opening and closing, so the circle times or whole group and small group activities I'll talk to you about today, those true learning routines, and always remembering that progress and monitoring and making sure you're doing quick checks for understanding, which is so key when you're not seeing students face to face every day. So I'm going to put this in 2 different ways. We're going to talk about some 4 keys to making this a success that we believe, or that I've seen and teachers have shared with me, and then how does that look in practice and some practical procedures that you can use. So remembering to keep and build a fostering and loving community. So important for our babies that don't get to see us every day, and we can't sit with them and give them feedback face to face. So think about those practices that you used to do to foster a community. And I want you guys to think about that in the chat. Are you continuing your morning routines? calendar math. That was one of my favorite when I used to teach students, young students, calendar math. That's great for building vocabulary and English skills. So still doing some of those routines. I've seen teachers now use their easel. I have one right here in back of me, and they use their easel to still continue calendar math. I've also seen teachers to make a calendar using their PowerPoints, and, you know, continuing with what is today, students? Today is using that vocabulary, okay? What is tomorrow? So remembering to do those different morning routines. Morning news. National Geographic has some great magazines and articles that you can use for morning news. And so having that morning news time, again, fostering that community and that circle time, those songs that you did, traditional songs, remembering to still do this even in an online setting. And then I want you to think about kind of this shift. So before we were kind of all focused on content, delivering the content. But now as we move into blended learning, I want you to remember that now it needs to be learner driven. Exactly like what Amanda talked about, looking at learning styles. So making sure that what you're doing meets the various learning styles of your students. How are we going to make sure that they're making progress? So focus on what we want students to learn, using various strategies like Amanda talked about, focusing on those active engagement strategies, and then fourthly, promoting progress monitoring. So think about ways that you can check for understanding. I love doing this even in an online setting, making sure you're still doing like a 2 wish and a star. So providing students with 2 stars, I said it backwards, 2 stars, 2 things they did well, and then 1 wish, 1 thing that you want them to practice. So giving students some meaningful feedback by using a 2 stars and a wish. Doing a thumbs up and a thumbs down throughout the lesson to see if students are with you, to gauge their understanding, or maybe even using your annotation tool. And I'm going to demonstrate some different ways that you can use progress monitoring in an online setting. So continue to use that. And I see people chatting in the chat. I just want to look at some ideas. And so I love what Suzanne said. I start my days with mindfulness videos. I love this. I am very into mindfulness. So mindfulness videos for students to follow, breathing and stretching. Wonderful idea, wonderful idea. I just kind of want to hit some of the things that I see, or we do. I said, yeah, doing those different things. Circle time is a must, people are saying. So please continue to share ideas. That's why we're calling this teacher talk. So share your ideas in the chat, and I'll try to stop momentarily and just share out some of the ideas that I see in the chat. Okay. So as I start to share some of the strategies, and as Amanda shares some strategies with you, we kind of have these 10 principles. And I'm not going to read them to you. I just want you to take a moment and to look at these 10 principles for engaging students online. And maybe something resonates with you, or there's something you do using one of these principles. And I want us to spend about 2 minutes dialoguing in the chat about these principles, and maybe you have something that you do to build student curiosity, or something you do to make sure you have a true parent to school connection, or to personalized learning. So I just want us to take 2 minutes in the chat, and let's just think about different things that you do to promote these principles. And I'll start my timer, because timers are great for an online setting for early learning. So I start my timer. I'm setting it for 2 minutes, and let's go.
I see some nice ideas popping through: morning song, morning news, talking partners.
Yeah.
I said number 10 should also be number 1, Geraldine. That was the discussion I had with Davida.
Oh, I was going to say that, so she beat us to it, Amanda. Thank you, Hen, and making sure you access your students' prior knowledge. Those brain breaks. Ooh, freeze dance. I want to hear more about that one. Morning chats. Again, fostering the community with your students. Yeah, these are great.
Building curiosity with costumes or masks. Very exciting.
These are great. We have 30 more seconds.
Floor is lava. That sounds exciting from the Western region.
Yeah, sending pictures of their work or the recordings. And I was actually going to share that. So I'm so glad someone talked about recordings, having students to record themselves. I love that one. And that helps for a variety of different ways for them to be able to hear themselves read, to record themselves. So many different strategies you can use as students are recording themselves.
Action song, Simon Says.
Great. Okay, so thank you for that, guys. And these are some great strategies that you're sharing with everyone. So I hope everyone is writing down some of these, and some of them are new, or just an affirmation if you're using some of these and you know that you're on the right track. And I'm glad someone picked up number 10, because Amanda said this to me the other day as we were looking at this, and she said, you know, your number 10 could be your number 1. To remember, this is that mindfulness and well-being and taking care of yourself, to breathe, take care of yourself. We're all in this together as we try to move through these practical applications and strategies and working with KG students in an online environment. So let's look at some of these things, and many of these you guys have shared, and I'm just going to demonstrate some different ways that you can use it. So one of the things when I was a classroom teacher, I loved to do role playing. It was probably one of my favorite things to do, and skits and engage my students. And I have teachers to say, how can we continue to do this in an online setting? So I'm going to share some of our resources in National Geographic Learning and our puppets. And I'm going to go over here to my classroom and pull one of them out. And so I love puppets. It is a great way to engage students in an online setting. And this is one of our puppets from Big Ideas Map. And so this is Descartes. Descartes, hello, he's going to join me today. And this is just a great way to continue to role play and to have fun with your students as you're learning. So I'm going to just model a way that you can use a puppet to tell a story, to build real life application. And I'm going to do it from one of our excerpts from Big Ideas Math. So today, Descartes and I are going to take our class on a field trip. Descartes, would you like to go with me on a field trip? Let's go on a field trip. Guys, let's go to the pond. What do you see at the pond? I see 5 ducks. Class, can you count the ducks with us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can even build one-to-one correspondence. You can have students annotate and circle on the screen. You can have students to make patterns. There's so many things that you can do. Then you can have students to also write the numbers. So Descartes, how many frogs do we see? So we could go back and we could name how many frogs we see. 1 second. Descartes is ready to go fast. Okay, so how many frogs do we see? And then we could have our students to annotate on the screen, and they could write the number on the screen. So this is just a great way to use a puppet. Early learners, and Descartes and I are best friends now. And you can just do acting out math lesson, a reading lesson, even a science or social studies lesson with your students. And then so many of you said continue using songs. And many of you put that in the chat. So I'm just going to play a math musical, and it's with this unit of looking at one-to-one correspondence and writing your numbers. And let's sing together.
I got fish, crackers, 1, 2, 3. Fish, crackers, and they're all for me. I got fish, crackers, 4, 5, 6. and they're all mine. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's do it again. I got 50.
So I'm going to stop it there. I don't want to show the whole, but this is again using music, using videos, using your puppets to act out, continue those practices that you would have done in a face-to-face and then turn it online. So I'm going to put my friend up for a minute and we'll move on. Continuing practices like show and tell. So we're big with that as KG teachers and teaching early learners. So continuing those practices. Have students there at home so they can maybe bring something from home and share it on the screen. Or you may be teaching a theme and you want them to share something that they made from their project learning, based learning activity. So there's so many ways that you can incorporate show and tell in a blended learning environment. Using real objects, continue to use real objects, okay? Have students to bring real objects. I use these for scavenger hunts. I love doing scavenger hunts. If some of you have joined me in sessions over the last few months, I will usually start with an activating activity and I will have my participants to find things in their environment. This is a great way to activate prior knowledge and to introduce a new lesson using real objects and having students to find things in their environment. Or you can have them, if you're teaching something, you can have them find things. You could do measurements, then to measure things. So there's so many things you could do using real objects in the home to promote learning. And then continuing to use your actions, okay? So using gestures, using your gestures to make sure that your TPRs for teaching English as second language learners, making sure that they're speaking, using your gestures to communicate and to build that sense of community and to keep engagement in the classroom. And I've heard people say movement is key. Some of the strategies, so using actions and continue to role play and to model for your students and then have them to play back out what you have shown them. One of my favorites is continuing to use whiteboards. So many people think I have to use just the whiteboards that are on my Zoom features or my Microsoft Teams, but I actually like to use mini whiteboards. Many of our students have them at home, and I use these for my quick checks for understanding. Okay, so let's just say if I was having a phonics lesson, and we were working on the vowel sound A, the short vowel sound A, and I wanted students to see if they could demonstrate the understanding. So I may ask students, can you write as many words as you can that have the short A sound, the A sound, as many words. And you have students, and to differentiate, you can have students to draw pictures to represent. And this is just a great way for those students who aren't always going to be verbal, that they can hold up and they can just write their words, or you can write a word on your whiteboard to model, okay? And you can have students to write it back and then for them to read the word and verbally tell you what the word is. There's so many activities. You can use whiteboards for sentence starters. So there's so many things you can do to check if students are understanding what you are teaching using your whiteboard. So this is a tool that I like to use for progress monitoring. And then using real images. Our resources are great with real photography in it and just the art that you see embedded. Amanda's going to show our Look and See series, and it's just great to see these real images. Have students to bring real images if you're doing a theme and for them to share real images. But this is a great way to tell story. As KG teachers and teaching early learners, we're storytellers. So tell your stories using images and use them for story starters to activate prior knowledge and either for a warm up or a lesson opener. And then I'm just going to show you two more things because I truly love teaching reading, so promoting reading and having those authentic circle times where you're still doing read aloud. So I'm going to just turn my screen ever so slightly, and you see in my back, I still have my big books here. Okay, so I have the Look and See, which Amanda's going to actually share a lesson with you from Look and See. And I also have my science big book. And you can open these up, you can tell stories, you can activate prior knowledge, you can still do before reading, during reading, and after reading strategies, or you can just still have a fun read aloud with your students. And if you don't have availability for a big book, you can use your digital readers, which are so true, fundamental for continuing reading. And you can use these to do guided reading, have small breakout groups, do read alouds, choral reading is still important with a digital reader, making those before, making predictions. Hi guys, what do you think is going to happen in the story? Or what do you predict what happened in the story? You can have students to annotate. Can you show me the characters in the story? Can you circle the characters? So there's so many things that you can do. I love our PM readers because if you look at the pictures here in this series, it really promotes the cultural relevance for the GCC region. So these are just great. You can have students to read aloud or to read together as a group. So many activities you can do with this. Now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda and she's going to share some more strategies.
Thanks, Davida. Those were wonderful. So like Davida said, I'll be sharing a few more strategies that align with some of what you said and some of what I saw in the chat. They're all going to be short and easy for you to plan, easy to implement, and hopefully very engaging for our students. For these activities, Davida said I'm using our newest Young Learner program. It's called Look and See. It's a 3-level, I guess a KG, a pre-primary program that uses National Geographic photography, video, and content, focuses on values and projects, and then building those language foundations so they're ready for elementary school. So here's the unit opener, and it's just such an exciting way to get those kids motivated to learn. So our first activity is called Look and Remember, and this is a memory game. So it's really good for introducing vocabulary, developing observation skills, or recycling vocabulary that they had learned in previous units. Basically, all you need to do is find a detailed photo that aligns with the subject or the vocabulary or language that you're teaching, and prepare a list of questions. What you'll tell your students is that they'll have to put their memory, their thinking caps on, and observe as much as they can. They have to take a look at all the little details and see how much they can remember. You'll give them 1 or 2 minutes to try to remember as much as they can, and then you'll cover it up. So we're gonna try it out, and I know it's probably been a long day for you guys, so this really might test your memories. And let's try, let's give it a try. Okay, so look and remember. I want you guys to take a look at this photo and try to remember as much as possible. I'm only going to give you 30 seconds though. So look at all of the children, look at the picture as a whole. Let's see how much you can remember. Okay, let's cover it up, Davida. And if you guys can just pop your answers in the chats, let's see how you do after a long day. So what color are the boys' boots? What color are the boys? Ah, well done. They are red. Way to go. How many kids are there? How many kids were in the picture? Oh, I see a few wrong. I see a few right. See, this is where we get into more specific details. There were 7 children. So good job, everybody, remembering 7 children. Who was hopping? Who was hopping? A girl. Well done. There was a girl hopping. So then you could make this into more open-ended. You could ask your students to tell them one action that they saw, one action word. You could turn it over to the students to ask the question. So hand them the role of teacher and you try it out. Who can ask the class a question? So that's something that's very short, easy to implement, fun for your students, and a great way to target that vocabulary. Okay, so look, say, and do. And a lot of you said you do action activities, and I know Davida touched on this in her part. So using an activity such as look, say, and do is very easy to implement. You can make it as short or as long as you'd like. And it's a really good way to get our little kiddos active. I think Davida said using actions with these new words, it's really great for students to remember that new vocabulary. Their brain will make a stronger connection if they're doing an action with that. And I know a lot of you said you do brain breaks or wiggle breaks. Don't ever underestimate the power of a little wiggle break to keep those kids' attention span, especially if that wiggle or that little movement is tied to a learning objective. You can go to the next one, please. Thanks, Davida. So this is very similar to the last activity, but instead of looking and just repeating the vocabulary word, we would use a song. We know that students, especially our young learners, love songs. Even when I was teaching 4th grade boys, they absolutely loved a good song. Repetition and rhythm are really good ways to provide language input for our students. And the research shows that songs or chants will help boost vocabulary and language acquisition. It's easily obtainable for all level of students. Very good for those shorter attention spans. And they're really fun and motivating. So if you want to hit it.
I can hop and I can crawl. I can crawl and I can run. Let's play outside. It's so fun. Let's hop and crawl and run. I can jump and I can dance. I can dance and I can run. Let's play outside. It's so fun. Let's jump and dance and run.
So it's super catchy. Once you tie that action to it, I guarantee you, you'll see your kids walking down the hall, or you'll have their parents saying that they were singing it all night long, maybe much to their dismay. You might be singing it tonight, but it's a great way to learn language. Okay, so this is Look and Play. So it's another really short, easy to implement activity that uses an image. But unlike the first one, this activity doesn't require students to produce any language. They simply have to listen and point. This will just show that they understand those keywords. So this is really good for some of those students that might not necessarily have the confidence to speak in front of their peers yet. They might be a little more shy. So you would display a photo that's, again, associated to the language or the content. This can be done on a projector or smartboard if you're in the classroom, or easily done with the annotation tool on Zoom or Teams. You'd have students come up and point to the answer or the vocabulary, or use the annotation tool. So do you want to switch to the next slide? Yes. We'll try it out. Okay, so if you know how to use the annotation tool, would you please click on the boy who walks? Click on the boy who is walking. So we've got, you can use the pen, you can use the annotation tool, and I'm not sure, are we able to use them as attendees? Okay, so they're up in the upper, I guess, the center of your Zoom tools. So another one would be point or click on the girl who hops. And this is something really easy. You could do it at the beginning of a lesson to see what they already know. Well done, Camille. Good job. And it's great for students of all levels. So it's, again, short and easy to implement. And lastly, I know we probably all use video in our classroom or in our online lessons, and they're really great for our young learners. They're super engaging. It's a really good tool for introducing language. It gives our students a real world context, and it shows them the language in a natural way. It's not just a robot doing it. It's a real human showing them how to use the language. And again, with this, it's really important to use a short, manageable chunk of a video. We don't want to throw a 25-minute video at our students to teach them a grammar point or a vocabulary lesson. We want it to be short. We want it to be to the point, aligned to what our outcome is. So while we're watching this video clip from Look and See, I think it'd be nice to hear from some of the teachers in the chat to say how they use video in their classroom, or perhaps how they would use this video clip to start a lesson or to end a lesson, or how you would use this video in your classroom. Let's hear some ideas from you guys.
Look, they're at the playground. Let's play on the playground too. Ready? Let's run. Let's crawl. And turn around. Let's play hopscotch. Hop, hop, hop. Hop and jump. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Thanks for sharing, and I see a lot of people use it to introduce or wrap up a theme. And I saw one person say to show the importance of physical workout to be healthy, and that's actually one of the values that this unit discusses. So that's a really good point that you made. Good for plenary, especially when learning the shape and sound of a new letter. So we're all using video, and they are a great tool, especially if we are in a blended learning environment.
Thank you for that, Amanda, and thank you for those strategies. Those are such great strategies, again, that engage learners, they motivate learners, using video, using for even unit launches to start a unit and activate prior knowledge and have some discussion around the unit of study before you begin to introduce the lesson. So many ways that you can use those strategies. So Amanda and I hope that the strategies that we shared help you to think about those keys, keeping it short, organized, student-centered, and then thinking about those principles, voice, giving students choice and voice, hands-on activities, personalizing your learning environments, connecting your synchronous to your asynchronous learning environments, and just really adapting strategies. So now we want to move in more into the share. Continue. I'm loving the energy in the chat. I see some Q's and A's, and I'm going to start answering and pulling up the Q and A's as we turn it over to some of our contributors today and our guest speakers. So we'll try to answer everything. There's some people who are raising their hand. Remember, since we're on Zoom webinar, we can't turn your mics on, but if you'll just put it in either the Q&A or the chat, Amanda and I will try to, in the next few minutes, to answer all questions. So now we're going to move into more of our teaching tips and tricks, we like to call them, and just listen to some of the people who I like to call on the front lines, who are doing this every single day, and they have really shown some different tricks in their bags and toolboxes that they built to really promote learning for students. So as I said before, we are joined by Ms. Camille McPherson, and she is a lead teacher at a school here in Dubai, a digital learning coach and resources creator, and she's also an education consultant. So if you ever use Teachers Pay Teachers, you will see her there. And she has been working internationally for over 10 years. So she has that understanding of working through American schools as well as curriculum and development. And she's very passionate about engaging learners in technology. And I think you'll see that into some of the things that she's going to share today. So Camille, thank you again for joining us. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can just take a moment to set yourself up, and we'll just do a quick transition here, guys. And just again, thank you for in the chat. There was a Q&A as Camille is getting ready that someone asked about sharing resources. They sent a message to me. And again, everything that we've shared, we will have the recording for today's session on our website, and as well as any of the teacher tips I'll put those under the teaching tips section of our website as well. Okay, Camilla, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Davida and Amanda, for having me. Can you see my screen? Yes? Awesome. Okay, so I'm Camille, and I've, as Davida explained, have been teaching abroad for 10 years. I started abroad in South Korea, and then I've been in the UAE ever since 2013. I've taught in the public as well as the private sector. I do have a master's of science in early education, early childhood education. My heart is with kindergarten. Most of my experience is as head of kindergarten or a kindergarten teacher. This year, I have taken on the challenge of teaching grade 1. And it's been a roller coaster, but it's been good. I also have started doing digital learning, as coaching other teachers on different platforms. And I am now also really building my Teachers Pay Teachers website and resources for teachers. So I hope that there are some strategies that you'll be able to take away, maybe want to try in your classroom. As we all know, there is no such thing as a cookie cutter teacher. So, we're willing usually to try anything, and we can pretty much make anything work. So here we go. Let me see if I can. So some of the challenges that I have had this year, I'm sure you guys have had a lot of them as well, is bridging the gap, especially for first grade students. As we all know, the school shut down and KG students really lost a huge chunk of the year. And so I knew that, of course, and I taught KG2 last year. So I knew that the structures of schools were very different. Some schools continued face-to-face, or not face-to-face, virtual learning every day, live sessions, and some schools didn't. So I knew that there was going to be gaps. And then, of course, my first year teaching grade 1 at a new school, because unfortunately my school last year did close due to COVID, I really didn't know what I was going into. So bridging that gap and then choosing and navigating multiple platforms. If schools were not ready or not integrating technology as much as we might have should have been, I think that there was this race to try and figure out what platforms were going to suit students and staff the best, and then training of that. So navigating multiple platforms and being in grade 1, there was no paper or resources that were allowed to be shared. And kindergarten was completely different. If you are 6 and under, you didn't have to wear masks, and you were still kind of allowed to have some hands-on activities, where grade 1, that was completely stopped. And I knew that it was going to be challenging because I am a very hands-on activity centers-based teacher. So I really was at a loss, like, what do I do now? And then I was also going to be teaching blended and online. So I actually teach in the morning in person, and then in the afternoons, I have a virtual class. So I teach 30 students, half and half. So I also didn't want to overwhelm myself, that idea of self-care. I knew that I needed to keep a balance of learning between in school as well as online students. And then finally, choosing appropriate and engaging activities, which we have seen amazing stuff today from National Geographic. And I really, really want to get some of these things so that I can utilize them in my classroom. So the must-have of this year for me has been patience. Patience with myself, patience with students, patience with admin and parents. So I wanted to share some of the strategies that I feel have really helped me this year. Routine learning and instruction, of course. Creating experiences for students, especially those grade 1 students that really were robbed of their KG year. And also, just move this over here, fun and engagement. We wanted to keep the level of fun in learning. I knew that students were also largely affected by COVID, and they knew what was going on. They were sad about it. A lot of students were sad that they couldn't come to school. So I wanted to maintain a fun and engaged learning atmosphere. Davida, sorry. Oh, I thought you had your okay. Digital games and virtual classrooms and field trips. So this is an example of a calendar that I've used. I like to integrate thematic learning. A lot of the times, thematic learning is connected with just kindergarten, but I have really seen my grade 1 students thrive with thematic learning, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are tons and tons of resources that you can find on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can also Google like international or national days. There's always something for, every day of the week. It could be donut day, bagel day, and you can turn that into a theme. And that's actually what I did last year a lot of the time. So if it was gingerbread day, this whole week we would do a gingerbread theme. This was Eat Your Veggies Day. So this whole week was a Healthy Me theme. So I really did feel, and I still do feel, that thematic learning, even up until the upper grades, I think is key and ideal for students learning. Here we have maintaining instructions and routine expectations. So from day one, of course, I was teaching virtually and in person. I knew that I was going to have to drill those rules. This picture always makes me laugh because this is real life right here. This is a picture of pretty much my day, students sharing at the wrong time. So immediately when I started this year, I knew that I was going to have to implement some sort of structure and muting rule. My students now know that they cannot just unmute themselves. I don't have to use the manual mute, which is awesome. They know that they must wait until it is their turn. But it took us a while to get there. And so drilling those rules and making sure that students are aware of what your expectations are, I thought was extremely important. The multiple platforms was also a huge obstacle. To combat that, I have been using this daily map. So every single day I post their daily map, and we use Seesaw at the school that I'm at. But every single day they're able to access their English lesson. This will take them directly to their Seesaw activity, math, science. They have their schedule here. If they've got Zoom with me, it's here, but all of their other teachers, this will take them directly to their Zoom. This was something that I built on Google Docs, Google Slides, but you can absolutely find these templates also on Teachers Pay Teachers, as well as Facebook. The Facebook community is fantastic for sharing resources like this. The green, good to go, yellow to slow is something that I had to also implement because obviously some students are faster than others. And while online teaching time frame is huge, I wanted to avoid students unmuting and saying, I'm done. So we use the green, good to go, or yellow to slow. You'll see on the next slide. So they're just popsicle sticks with smiley faces. Of course, a nice project would be for you to have your students create their own. But if you want this freebie, please add me on Instagram, Teaching from Square One, literally life right now. And please send me a private message with your email, and I will definitely email you the template. So here is a picture of me using that with my students. Sometimes they don't remember where they put it, and they just know that they find something green or something yellow. I'll say check in, green, good to go, yellow to slow, and they'll either hold up something that's green or yellow, or their little face here that you can see that we've made. All right. Timers, Davina mentioned this earlier, has been a life-saving tool for me. The timer that I use is on YouTube. It comes in different lengths, but you can also cut it depending on what program you're using. I use PowerPoint to prepare all of my lessons, and I put a timer on them. It's just something that keeps the students going. The music is calm. I really like this song. I'm gonna play it. Oh, let me share my sound, sorry. Share computer sound, here we go. So it's a nice little writing song that my students know also. This is go time, this is work time. So when I play this, they know, Ms. Camille has her expectations that I am doing my work, I am focused on the task at hand. So another thing, of course, is just structure. I change the content, but I don't change the structure and the routine. My kids know that every day when we have English, we also have structure in other subjects, but we start with a read aloud. We go through our reading skills and our goals. We start with a read aloud, then we move on to our focus in reading and practice that skill. And then we have language. We have our language focus and skill. and then writing, and we move on to spelling. So obviously every week those, the content changes, but the structure and the routine stays the exact same. I also think that, especially in American curriculum, we have to tell the students what their target and their goals are. They have to be clear. So as you can see here, I'm using the I can statements. I'm not just cutting and pasting the standard. The standard code is here, obviously for data tracking, but I've also added images, and that's always there for my students. And I go through this every single day. Another one of the challenges for me was that I knew that I needed more time to work on a skill. So we work on a skill the entire week, or these 4 skills the entire week. As opposed to trying to, do one day for one skill. It wasn't working. So another thing that we had to implement was that we built and developed those skills throughout the week. So with COVID and everything that has been happening, it was very likely that there would be students in school one day and not the other. And we wanted to make sure that there were no gaps, or there were no continued gaps in learning. So with the work that we do in our school, we have a workbook as well as an online version of it. And so each day it goes with the lesson that is displayed on the PowerPoint. And it's a lot of work and prep, but it's worth it. I've seen the growth of my students this year, and I'm just so proud of them. So we've got a workbook and a digital seesaw activity that matches. And we always try to incorporate some sort of whiteboard game. This is ABC order. We push ourselves. We can write a sentence or just write the word. And of course, as we said, those gestures. This is just, what picture matches the word. My students love this game, and we mix it up every day. Projects, hands-on learning. This is a picture from last year. However, you can absolutely do something like this year. So students were asked, this was Transportation Week, so they were asked to create their own vehicle. They could choose what it was. We incorporated English by, of course, they had to create their logo or write the name of their car, the speedometer, brought in the math element. And so students got their cars, they built it at home, and they brought them in, and then we had a car show. So we displayed them outside, and then the oral language was brought in because they had to explain, they had to sell their car. They had to explain how they made it, who they made it with. And then to end it here, we had a drive-in movie with all of the different vehicles. Something, again, you can absolutely do now because everyone is in their own car for the most part. And of course, you can easily socially distance that. Creating experiences. So as Davida mentioned earlier, and Amanda, that we still need to have hands-on learning. We still need students to feel like they're involved, that they're enjoying and they're engaged. So I've really pushed doing some sort of experience every week that students can write about. We posted on our blog. So this particular week was Owl Week. And I made sure that they knew in advance what they needed for students at home, what type of materials they needed. I also made sure that it was materials that they could easily find at home. I didn't want parents to have to go buy anything. So we got toilet paper rolls and construction paper and scissors and glue, and we went through this craft together. And then throughout the week, we started building our story map, and then the students were to write the procedural writing of how we went about creating these owls. And they loved it. I had families of owls. I was being sent multiple pictures of owls, but they absolutely loved it. And it was a great experience for them. Another experience that I had to adapt, of course, because of this year, generally I would be able to have the students have some sort of hands-on STEM experience for the gingerbread week, building the bridge to help him get across. I couldn't do that. We weren't allowed to bring, these types of resources in, of course, and, food was not allowed to be shared. So I created a digital version on Seesaw. So they had to drag the pieces. Again, it takes time, but it's really for the kids, and they truly enjoyed this experience. And as you can see, this is an example. This is pretty impressive for me. This is pretty impressive. And then we had another one where we had to build our houses. And of course, they counted how many windows and doors they put on. So creating experiences, even if you have to adapt them into a digital experience, they still truly can enjoy that. Choice boards, someone mentioned this in the chat earlier. Choice boards look different. You can create your own, you can find them on Teachers Pay Teachers or Facebook, but students' choice is super important. This one is an example from Healthy Me Week and Gingerbread Week. Students were able to choose, I think there was like a minimum that they had to choose, but of course it was their choice. And students love showing work. They love showing, something that they're interested in. So choice boards all the way. Grade 1 is not something that we can do all the time, but it's definitely something that you can incorporate, and especially on their free time, they love doing these. Hidden Picture is a review game. It is actually on my Teachers Pay Teacher site. This is an example. I will play this quick video for you.
Looking for a fun way to review sight words, numbers, number facts, and more? Download the Hidden Picture review game. Students take turns recalling their skills and testing their critical thinking. Students can remove tiles by calling out or even using sentences to try and guess the hidden picture. Repeat until all the tiles have been guessed or the students have guessed the hidden picture. Use the clear button to reveal the picture and move on to the next slide. There are 4 thematic slides included. Happy reviewing!
Oops, sorry. So that is something that I am working on making more of. I am totally open for custom jobs. So if there's a focus that you have that you would like me to focus on, please send that to me. I would be more than happy to start developing more of those as I transition out of the classroom and into a full-time digital learning coach and resource creator. So virtual classrooms, again, you don't have to do this yourself, guys. You can go on to Bitmoji for educators on Facebook. There's tons and tons of classrooms, virtual classrooms that all of the amazing educators around the world send for free. They post them for free in these groups. You just have to copy them to your Google Slides and you can just switch out your Bitmoji. These are links to the books for you to read. I know there's a National Geographic one. I'll have to send that to you, Davida, but it's awesome and students still have that classroom feel and environment. Virtual field trips. We have not been able to have any field trips this year, so virtual field trips have been the way to go to still have students explore and develop their learning through going to these places. So they can look very different. This is one that I created. We had a bee week and students went through and watched different videos, but you can also go to National Geographic as well as this website, Poly, and you can embed these virtual trips through Seesaw or whatever platform you use. So this is just an example. I think these are the 7 wonders of the world. Students can drag and have a look around. Of course, you can ask them questions. It's awesome. This website is fantastic. Right. That's it for me. If you have any questions, please email me at creatingamazingminds@gmail.com or my personal email. Add me on Instagram. I'm so excited to connect with you guys. And thank you again, Davida and Amanda, for having me.
Thank you so much, Camille. I just totally enjoyed just watching all of those interactive strategies. And I was with someone else in the comment, they said that they love virtual field trips. Those were great, and some of the other strategies. So thank you. Amanda?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Davida. Do you want me to share the screen now?
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much, Camille.
Thanks, Camille. That was wonderful. And I saw lots of very excited comments and wanting to try some of your ideas. There you go, Davida.
Let's see. So, Amanda, are you going to pick up with Manat Saya to share their resources?
Okay, so because of time, I think we'll skip to the lovely digital resources that Angelique sent over from her team over at the ADNOC schools in the Western region. That's the Madinat Zayed campus. So thank you so much for sharing those with us. And I think that you'll see, hopefully you'll pick up something new, teachers that are on here. A lot of these were new for me, so I'm still learning about them now. So thanks for sharing. So we've got WordWall, which their team said was a really fun resource where you can create documents, and they already have some pre-made documents. So you don't have to pay for it, but if you want to create your own, you do have to pay for that. There's GoNoodle, which they use for movement and brain breaks. And they said that they can create characters and these grow as the class completes more movement videos. So that's really good for getting, again, those kids, those little wiggle breaks so you can break up your lesson. Nearpod is something I hear in almost all of my meetings, and it's something I can't wait to see more about. And I see Camille nodding her head, and I know almost everybody I speak to, especially at the younger elementary level, is using that. And Angelique's team said that they found Nearpod works really well with engaging their students. They use it for the field trips, which we just saw, memory matches, and to allow students to draw and write on backgrounds easily. It has good reports as well as tracking engagement and how many students complete the task. It's free to a certain memory level, and then after that you have to pay, and they cope pretty well for free for about 6 months, and then they wanted to upgrade. So Nearpod, I see the chat going off quite a bit. I'm sure a lot of other teachers are using it. I don't have the chat pulled up, but it sounds like a wonderful tool to be using. And then lastly, they shared flippity.net, which I also have never heard of before. And they said that this was really good for creating lists, creating spinning wheels or randomizers, and you can do that through a Google spreadsheet. So thank you so much, Angelique, and your team at Madinat Zayed for sharing those. Hopefully you were able to pick up something new. Maybe there was something you've never been using before, but these all sound really engaging.
Thank you, Angelique, again for sharing and just sharing what the KG department is doing there. And Camille, thank you again. And Camille is willing, she mentioned Nearpod as well, and I'm like Amanda. Everyone talks about Nearpod all the time, and I'm not that's not one of my areas. So Camille has stated that, if we are right at time. So I just wanted to note that, but if you guys want to stay on, if you haven't used Nearpod, she would be willing just to give a little bit more information, and then we'll also share out a little bit, or Angelique may want to share some of the resources on our website with Nearpod. So we're right at time, and what I'm going to do, you are welcome. I always do this to stay on with me. I said that we will be staying on for about 15 minutes. And Amanda, I'm going to go back to my screen, and I'm just going to show the screens from this, the slides from Miss Marissa for those who want to stay on. But actually, Amanda, if you'll just stay right here for 1 second.
Sure.
For those who would like to go ahead and leave, since we are at time, but if you would like to stay on, we're just going to share a few more tips. I'll share Miss Marissa's tips with you if you want to stay on, but if not, please go to our website. And our website information is here. We are hosting a new student-facing event. So some of you joined us at the end of March when we had our first project exploration, which was a student-facing event where we take the teaching out of your hands for one lesson. And I'm joined with the National Geographic Explorer, which is so cool and so great to work with. And so backed by popular demand, we are hosting Project Exploration 2.0. And this time we did grades 3 to 5 the first time. This session, we will actually host 2 sessions. One for KG to 2, so early learning teachers, please join us, and then a second session for older students, and it will be all about animal conservation, endangered species, and habitats. So please join us, and we'll have a new National Geographic Explorer with us. So if you have a chance, we'll put the website in the chat, and then I'm going to share my screen, and just as you're leaving, I'll just share a couple of screens with you from Miss Marissa. And thank you to those who were able to stay for the entire time. And great. So let me just share my screen really quickly. There we go. Okay, and I'm not going to read all of Miss Marissa's just because of time, but I see that I still have over 100 participants on, so I'll just keep going at least another 5 minutes. And for those of you who have to leave, please join our website and the recording will be there. Miss Marissa is another contributor and she's a KG teacher. I had the pleasure of working with her last year in the school that I worked with here in Dubai. And I just want you to just kind of look at these. These are some of the things that she talked about for consistency in communication. So I love these ideas, listening to students, communicating with them, having question and dialogue in your classroom. So here's some strategies that she talked about consistency. And I love to see two very different teachers and have some of the same key points, consistency and communication. We saw that highlighted in some of the same strategies that Camille shared as well. Okay, and then let's see, she's also sharing some resources that she's using. So flashcards, making sure you're still using flashcards and letter cards for math and real life objects, as I said, and videos, and those whiteboards to demonstrate learning as well. And so that students, again, we can't see what they're doing every day. So using those whiteboards during your synchronous learning environments. And I love this one, my turn, your turn. So she gives some examples how she uses this activity in her learning environment. And I'll just give everyone some time to maybe even take a picture or read through this activity that she does with her classroom. I talked about scavenger hunts as well, and she's giving some other ideas on how you can use scavenger hunts if you're teaching sounds. So she's giving some ideas how to teach sounds and have students to find things in their environment that start with the sound. And also she gives some ideas on how to use scavenger hunts with math as well. So I didn't even think about that. It's a great idea. And then differentiation in the classroom. So still having those small group opportunities. And the school that she and I both worked with, some of the ideas that we had a 20-minute session, we would have 10 minutes for each group. And while other students were not online, if I was working with a small group for differentiation, the other students would be working in an asynchronous environment, doing choice sports or activities that I'd assigned them, and then they would join back in the next 10 minutes. So it's a great way to still do leveled grouping in a blended learning environment. And then here's some examples of assessments. And she's still using what a good one looks like. So modeling what a good one looks like, WOGGLE. Okay, I love that acronym to check and see if students know what a good one looks like or know what if they've met your I can statements or your learning objectives. And then she uses Class Dojo. So a lot of people use Class Dojo. I love Class Dojo. I used it as a classroom teacher myself. In most schools that I worked in, we used it. But you can also use it not just for classroom management, but you can use it as well for your instructional purposes as well. So it's a great tool to use, and also for that school-home communication. And as Camille says, Seesaw. So I will share Miss Marissa's resources as well on our website, so that we have her resources and that you have all of the resources that Amanda and I shared along with Camille. Camille, thank you so much again for joining us today. We truly appreciate. There were many comments for some interactive strategies that you shared and they would like me to share with you. We hope that you enjoyed, and just remember again that we talked about SOS, keeping it short, organized and student-centered, as Amanda said, thinking about ways to adapt learning. So remembering what you did as a developmental teacher before we went online, and then adapted to meet this blended learning environment. I will, as usual, stay on a few more minutes. If you have questions, I see a few in the Q&A, so I'll just check that and answer out. And if not, I hope to see you on June 9th. Please register your class for this interactive event. Thank you again. And Amanda, do you have anything else to say before we close out?
No, just thanks so much, everybody, for participating. I know it's sometimes difficult to make it work after school with our busy schedule. So it's really great to see so many attendees. It was a great session, and I hope everybody learned something new.
Agreed. Thank you again for having me. I'm hoping to connect with a lot of you through Instagram, but just take care of yourself, give yourself grace. We are all in this together.
Thank you. And I'll spend, just for those of you who are still on, I want to catch up with the Q&A. Some participants have asked, will we have the recording? Yes, the recording will be on the website, and I'm going to actually just put our website, or maybe someone already did. I know Belinda put it earlier in there, but I will put our website right now in the chat. And this is where you can go find today's recording, as well as previous recordings that we have, and our previous project exploration and information to register for the next one. So I will put that in the chat. Let me just try to catch up with anything else. Someone asked about using PowerPoints. Do you use PowerPoints, and do you recommend them? I love PowerPoints. There's so many interactive things in here. Amanda talked about using a classroom presentation tool. You know, we use that through our resources, and you can use that in conjunction with your PowerPoint, and having some of those interactive activities that, you know, Amanda and I shared, and also Camille shared, using your PowerPoint. So yeah, it's still something that helps to structure your lesson. Think about what Amanda said about being organized. So I think your PowerPoints help you to keep everything organized for today's learning. I see Camilla shaking her head with that.
I love PowerPoint. Listen, I know how to use PowerPoint better than any platform. And while Google Slides is awesome, you just still can't animate like you can on PowerPoint. And I could blow your mind with some of the PowerPoint templates I have. I'm telling you, it's still amazing, still amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to just catch up with the chat. Thank you, everyone, for the comments that I see. Seems like there's still about 100 people on. If you have any, oh, someone asked about the certificate. They sent a message to me about the certificate. You will receive your certificate within 24 hours of this session. So by tomorrow, you'll receive it through Zoom. And if you don't, please just send me an email and let me put my email. And as I'm putting my email, please, if you have tips, some of the things that you shared today, if there are things that you would like for me to share, I truly believe in building a professional learning community. So if there are strategies that you do in your classroom that are working, please share them, and I will have upload them to our website and share with the broader community. So please continue to do that. And there is my email.
I've also dropped my email in there, Davida. If you have any questions about resources that we shared or strategies, we'd be happy to send out samples. Just let us know.
Please. Yeah, resources, samples, if you'd like for us to come and talk about any of the resources, we will be more than happy to do that. Thanks for that, Amanda. Okay. There was one more slide in here. See, that's technology, just more about our event. Okay. Oh yeah, so someone asked about using small group collaboration with Google Meets. Yes, you can still do, they still have opportunities for you to do breakout sessions with your Google Meets as well. I will tell you, just because I've used both and we tried both, that Zoom is a little bit more user-friendly though for breakout sessions, but you still can use Google Google Classroom to use small group instruction. So yes. The answer to that is yes. Good questions, guys. And we will stay on just for about 2 more minutes just to see if we have any more questions for the group. Thank you. Great questions. I think I've caught up with the Q&A. Perfect. Do you have any resources for KG that is next? Geraldine, yes. So if you would like to hear more about our resources that we have with National Geographic Learning, if you can just put your email, and I probably have it as well. And Geraldine, I believe you joined some other sessions too. I remember you. If you'll just put your email here, And we can share our Look and See is a resource for KG, even Big Ideas Math is for KG as well, but we can provide you more information about our resources that are specifically for KG. When I say KG1, I mean KG, I'm spanning across KG1, KG2, and even pre-K. How do I register for Wednesday's session? One moment, and I'm just going to stop sharing so that I can put the link in the chat.
I've got it. I'm pulling it up now. I put our website, and now I'm putting the direct link to Project Exploration as well. We'll be sending out an email with a formal invitation with the links depending on what grade level you're teaching.
Thank you, Amanda.
It's hard to monitor it all. Absolutely.
Teachers, you're trying to navigate all the screens, but yeah, you can just go into our website, as Amanda said, and then look for Project Exploration 2.0 to register. Okay, you're welcome. Amanda, did I catch up on all of the questions?
From what I can see, Davida, I think you did. I think that was wonderful. Thanks everybody for the participation. It's good to have somebody else on the other side of the screen participating.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. This was a really good audience. A lot of
This really was. I love this.
great contributions from that side.
And Geraldine, thank you for putting your email. So we will be in contact with you about our resources. And then also, I see someone else has as well. Okay, perfect. Okay. Oh, there's a few more chats coming in, it looks like.
Mostly thank yous and goodbyes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks again for having me, Davida and Amanda.
Thank you again, guys.
Thanks,
All right,
Camille.
we'll go ahead and log off, and I look forward to seeing you. We will have information on our website. I know we're getting ready to close the year, and we will start back fresh with a huge back to school webinar series, which will start at the end of August and will run through the end of September, as well as some tips and strategies that we hope that you can take as you start the new academic year. And as many people said, being patient with yourself, take care of yourself, have a wonderful summer vacation. Join us on the 9th, and we look forward to continue working with you and building our professional learning community. Bye, everyone.
Bye.